So, here are more predictions of characters that I think they're going to add to Mario Strikers Battle League. And just as I did in my previous videos, I'm going to focus on which stats I'm going to give to each character, and I'm going to cover 2 characters per video, and one is going to be a captain, and the other one is going to be a sidekick. If you want a little more of an explanation and why and how I'm going to do these videos, then check out my first video in which I cover Pauline and Birdo, and I also explain a little bit more my reasoning behind these predictions. And now let's start with the characters that I'm going to be covering. The captain character of this update is actually a character that I really enjoy, and that his stats distribution are going to be interesting, to say the least, or unique in some way. That's right, I'm talking about Piri Piranha. But why do I think that his stats are going to be interesting? Well, the first thing that came into my mind when I thought about Piri Piranha was actually that he could be the first character with 18 strength at a base level, right? Naked Piri Piranha. And why do I think that? Well, in Mario Strikers Charge, he had one of the best defensive moves, and he was very strong, so very few people could approach him. So that's why I believe he could be the first character with 18 strength as a base stat. And then when it comes to the rest of his stats, I personally would actually like a character that is pretty all around in the rest of the stats, because we already have a ton of tanks. Like we have Donkey Kong, Wario, you could say Daisy and Rosalina are kind of tanky characters. But those tanky characters, they all have high strength, and for all of them, the speed stat is the same. It's always 9. So, for Piri Piranha, I will try to at least change that stat for a point. And then the rest of the stats, I believe that they could be different, since if you give him shooting, then he's going to be like Bowser or Wario. If you give him passing, then he's Donkey Kong. If you give him speed, then he will be very similar to Waluigi. And if you, well, I guess you could give him technique. But really, when you think about Piri Piranha, you think about technique? No. So, no, technique is not an option. Now, here are the 3 builds that I thought for him. My favorite is this one, the one with 18 strength, and then everything is all around, and the speed is 10. Then, now that we know that they can add a character that has 1 more point in a stat than usual, they maybe in this time they could add a character that has 1 less point in a stat than what you usually see in a low stat, right? So in this other build I thought about it, so he would have 18 strength and then 8 speed, which is very slow. But I think it would kind of fit him, although I don't think it will actually be very good, so I don't really like this build. And then I just made this other basic tank build, just in case they don't want to do anything new or interesting and they just want to stick to 9 speed and 17 strength. So yeah, there you have it, 3 builds for Piri Piranha. So now, moving on to the sidekick that could come with Piri Piranha. The one that I think that is going to come is Dry Bones. Although I actually believe that they could add other characters, for example Boo, they could add Monty Mole, they could also add Hammer Bro, but I don't know, Dry Bones is actually a good character that they could add because, for example, Boo doesn't really have a body or feet. So although the stats that I will give Dry Bones are very similar or could fit with Boo, Boo is I don't know, a little bit of a stretch when it comes to maybe he getting in. Don't get me wrong, I love Boo. He's one of my favorite characters, but I don't really see him getting into the game, you know. That's why I place Dry Bones, because I also like Dry Bones, but he does have feet and he does have a chest. So they could actually put gear on him. Now, what would I give to Dry Bones? Well, just as I did with Piranha, that I gave him like one less point than usual in stat, I think that Dry Bones could be the first character with 8 strength. Why? Because he is a skeleton. So, I mean... And then, for the rest of the stats, I think he should have very high speed and very high technique. Why? First, speed. He's mostly a speedy character in a lot of series. And in Mario Tennis Aces, he is a tricky character. So, technique is kind of like... it makes your shots curve. And in Mario Tennis Aces, when you are a tricky character, your shots also curve. So yeah, he could have high speed and high technique. And yeah, that may be too similar to Peach, but rather than having a like okay passing, he could have like shooting, or maybe don't have neither passing, shooting, and strength, and just have speed and technique. And also, one of the possibilities that I see is that maybe Dry Bones is the first character that has 18 speed. Now that we are talking like the highest stat in the game, right? 18. He could have like the 8 strength and 18 speed, and that could be pretty like unique. That will be like some stats that we've never seen before, and it could be pretty good. So here are the 3 builds that I thought for him. Well, not builds, I always say builds, but it's more like base stats that I thought for these characters. So yeah, here are the base stats of what I think Dry Bones could be. And just as I did with Petey Piranha, then if they don't want to have, crazy stats, here's another, more normal stat distribution that I could see him having. So that'll be it for the video. Tell me if you agree with my prediction with these 2 characters. I personally this is like my favorite pair of characters that I will really, really like in the game. Those are like my 2 favorite ones, like at my top of the wish list. But they are like less popular than, let's say, Bowser Jr. or Koopa Troopa, which are very likely to get into the game. I think those are like the next more likely or like more probable characters other than Daisy and Shy Guy, but they already added Daisy and Shy Guy. So yeah, I think that the next update, the one that's probably coming at the end of this month, it's going to be Koopa Troopa and Bowser Jr. And those characters I will be covering in another video. But yeah, I don't know. This is like my favorite pair, the Petey Piranha and Dry Bones. I would really like them to add those. But for sure, I think it's more likely that they add Koopa Troopa and Bowser Jr. Although I do believe that they may do more than just the 3 updates that they had planned for this year. Like, I don't know, I have a feeling that they may do 5 updates, and 2 of them are going to be the next year, right? And yeah, I have some reasons to think about it. Like, for example, that in Mario Strikers Aces, no, the Mario Tennis Aces, they started with 15 characters and they doubled that up to 30 characters. And that'll be the same like case with Strikers. They start with 10 characters and they double that to 20 characters, which, I mean, it's very good. And with 5 updates, they will, accomplish that. And also the gear sets. I don't know if you have gone into the game and kind of like count the gear sets, because if they plan to add just 3 more gear sets, well, 2 more gear sets by the end of the year, I don't know, this may be like a little of a dumb reason to think about it, but the gear sets will be like, I don't know, they won't look complete. It will be like an extra row with only 1 gear set, right? But if they do like 5 updates rather than just 3, then there will be 4 complete rows of gear sets, and I don't know, I mean 20 characters, 4 rows of gear sets, which means 12 gear sets. Oh my god, that'll be like a lot of content, and I think that could be, I don't know, pretty good for a finished game, And I will really like them to add that, because I don't know, Mario Strikers, since I played it like on the Wii, it has been like one of my favorite characters, and I really like that it came back to the Nintendo Switch. So yeah, that'll be for the video. Bye.